Kadosh Boker Or Masechet Gittin Daf Amud Aleph 25a1. We just said that in Ma'arava they said in the name of Rabbi Elazar that if a person is going to come and he's going to do chalitza beregel semol velayla, whether it's going to be with the left foot, it's called putting your foot in it, yeah, or they did it at nighttime, right? It's going to be pusulot to poslot. It's psul, meaning that the chalitza was not a kosher chalitza, but it's also going to be poselotam to the, right, to do yibum to the rest of the brothers. Katan. However, though, if it was going to be done by a chalitzat katan or ampilya or a nal shel bad instead of a regular shoe, pesulot, right, ve'en poslot, which means it's pesulot, meaning it wasn't a good yibum, but it's not posel to do to the chalitza, but it's not considered a chalitza at all. So therefore, technically, they could still do yibum. Zireh amar. This is where we are starting today. Zireh amar. Zireh says, kulan en poslin chutz min ha'acharon. Yeah, what does that mean? Nobody is going to be posel to the kiuna except for the last one. That means all the gittin in our Mishnah, right? Even a reach haget, there's no reach haget. The only one that has reach haget, remember, reach haget means that it's like this smell, meaning it's something there. It's not that it's a get, but it's something. It's only the last case. Remember, there were 4 cases in the Mishnah. First Mishnah was litlamed, to learn. Second case was that it wasn't litlamed, but you basically decided to change your name, so you wanted to give it to somebody else that has the same name. Third case was it was for this guy, but just for different wives, like the older and the younger with the same name. And the last case was he just told us, whichever one you want. Meaning it's for him and it's for his wife, but whichever wife he wants. So it wasn't for a specific wife. So the last one is only one that has reach haget. So it says here, kulan and posin chutz min acharon. Rabbi Yochanan says, no. Even the last one is not going to be posel for the kiuna, because I'm going to say that we're not going to say that there is breida lechumra. Rabbi Yochanan goes according to his reasoning. Rabbi Yochanan says, right? What happens right now if you have brothers that they divided the Yerusha between them? Yeah, you have. So he says over here, what does that mean? Brothers that come and they divide the inheritance. So it says here, lekuchoten. Consider lekuchot. You have to give it back to each other in yovel. Right? What does that mean? That means you're considered lekuchot, and therefore, because we don't say breda. So it comes out that the chelek that they took at the beginning, it goes back in yovel, right? And then again, they have to divide it. Right? Utzricha, and we need the 2 memnot of Rabbi Yochanan. Because if it was only written by get, only by get, I'm going to say that there's no breda. You shouldn't be in lah lishma, because we need that it has to be lah for her lishma, and therefore, since he just said write whichever one that you want, that's not la lishma, right? So therefore, it's not considered lishma. Aval hatam, but over there in the case of the brothers, it's a sale. The rabbi said you have to give it back. Aval Yerusha matana no, but Yerusha matana no. V'yeshmin and Sadai, and if you would only tell me that he's talking about a field, mishum de lechumra, because we're going to say that it's a chumra, that we say that it should go back. Inami ketechila, or it's going back to the original form. Aval hacha, but here to do with the get, I would say that you don't say that, because you don't have to say such a thing. So tzricha, that's why we need both memnot of Rabbi Yochanan to come and teach you that we don't say yesh vreda lechumra, and therefore by a get, it's not. He's saying by a get, it's not even a reach a get, it's nothing, right? And also by here, by the brothers, they have to give it back by yovel. Okay, fine. Ba mine Rav Oshiyam Rav Yuda. Asks Rav Oshiyah from Rav Yuda. Amar lelavlar ketov leezu shetetze bapetach techila. Imagine a person has 2 wives, and he says, you know what, write a get to the first one that goes out of the entrance. Which one?
He didn't ask Kaogan.
He didn't ask Kaogan. Very good. Where do we learn that? Who was that? In the Gemara and Tanit? Yes.
There's many of them. Shaul?
No, right after Shaul.
No.
Yes. Coming out of his daughter. What's his name?
Elmaleh.
No. So Bamine Rav Oshiyah Rav Yehuda. So comes Rav Oshiyah and he asks from Rav Yehuda. Amar la lavlad. If he told the lavlad, Ketov le'ezo shetetze b'petach tchila. Write it to the first one that comes out of the house, the entrance. Ma, what's halacha? Amar le, he said, Tenitua, we already learned it. Yeter mikan, more than that, if he tells the lavlan, ktov lezo shiritzeg agaresh, whichever one, pasul agaresh bo. Alma em breda, we don't say breda. So there's a thing. What's the difference between he comes, he says whichever one that you want, or the one that comes out of the house first? It's the same concept. So Amaleh, right? The 8th way we're going to ask a question. If a person comes and he says, you know what, I'm going to do shchita for the Korban Pesach, so the first one that comes up from Yerushalayim. Once the first one came in his head and the majority of his body, so he's going to be zocher in his chelek, and he's going to be mizakeh the rest of the brothers, right, with their chalakim as well. So you see from here that what? That there is breda, right? And not like Rav Hoshaya, Rav Yehuda, that there's no breda. So Elmaleh, he says, Hoshaya beri, Hoshaya my son, ma'inyan psachim etzel Gittin. What are you comparing Pesach to get? Why, you think you could compare everything? You can't always compare everything. Some people, they compare everything. But my kesher. Yeah, the same thing. He's saying, what are you doing? You're comparing Pesach to Gittin. He says, Elmaleh was already written. Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, which means that really be'emet, he was doing this in order to make them go quick, right? But really be'emet, it was going to be for all of them. So it's not breda, meaning he wanted his children to come running to the Beit HaMikdash. So how do you do that? The first one that gets there, I'm not going to do it for him. He was doing it for everybody. But he wanted to get them to do things quickly. Yeah? So therefore he comes and he tells that. It's also to do it for them. So if you're going to tell me now that really meant that it's going to be exactly like what he said, so then Shapi, then it's going to be okay. But if you're going to say that he didn't do it at the beginning, which means that this, what does it help now that the second that he gets in, the brothers also get? What's the connection? If he wasn't counted, meaning if he only counted the person that's coming in, so it's only him getting in, not the brothers, why did it say that the brothers also get it? Rather, and after Shchita, they could come and be counted. But now we learned in the Mishnah, which means that they used to count them, and then afterwards they used to take away from themselves until after the Shchita, which means that's it. After the Shchita, Gamanu, Kadish, you can't add people to the count. Meaning, when they come and they do the Korban Pesach, I can come afterwards and say, you know what, I want to combine with you. I want to join with you guys. No, it's already too late. Right? Avar zmano batel korbano. Yeah. What? Yes, be batchala. Yes.
זה לא מדויק, רבי.
מה? We also learned this in a Braita. The Braita says, Maaseh, vekadmu banot labanim. The girls were quicker than the boys. V'nimtzeu banot zrizot ubanim shvalim. So it came out that the girls were quicker and the boys were like shvalim, were like a lazy. You understand? Sometimes it happens, and all of a sudden, but the girls, they want to Irat Shamayim, they want to be connected, so they'll be running. Yeah. Okay. So he says, Amar Abaye says, Kabay mine. So they asked from Yehuda, Tole bedat acherim. Right now, he's being Tole bedat acherim. Right? Because he went now and he said, whoever's going to come out first. So it's Talui bedat anashim. Which one of the women are going to come out first? But then he's going to be poshet, Tole bedat atzmo, to do with whichever one he wants to come and divorce first. So then afterwards he asked, again, Tole bedat achrim, to do with who's going to run first to get the korban, right? To run into the Yerushalayim to do the korban. So therefore, what are you doing? Meaning the cases are not 100% correct. The one of telling his children, whoever gets to Yerushalayim first, is that talui b'dat atzmo? Nothing to do with him. Has to do with whoever's going to run first into the Yerushalayim. To do with the one, whoever's going to go out of the entrance first. That's to do with which women. Whatever which woman, because she decides to come out first. But to do with whichever one that he wants, it's talui b'dat atzmo. Him, not anybody else. So what are you comparing the cases? One of them is talui b'dat atzmo. Other one is talui b'dat acharim. What's going on over here? So Amar Rava comes and he says, Umay Kushia, what's the question? Dilma demandit le breda. Maybe according to the one that holds breda, lo shna tole b'dat atzmo, there's no difference. Eat le breda, they hold the breda. Umandelet le breda, the one that doesn't hold the breda, lo shna, it doesn't matter also between b'dat atzmo and b'dat acharim, le breda. Which means like this, we wanted to say that really be'emet, the entire machloket is there breda or not breda? Breda means, can I retroactively say that this is the one that we were speaking about, even though I didn't know? Right? I'm going to come and say, you know what? Whoever was the one that comes out first, or comes out first or speaks first in the shiur, right? It could be that there's breda. What does breda mean? That you already know who's going to, that means whoever spoke first, retroactively, right, who's going to do that. You're right.
Women.
Huh?
Women.
So what's the entire concept? We thought that is there Breda or not Breda? The machloket is, do I say that retroactively you know exactly who's the one that's doing it? Or do I say no, meaning that if I came and I say who's the first one that's going to speak in the shiur, so you already know that the first one that speaks, retroactively I'm going to say it's him. Yeah, that's the kavanah of yesh Breda. You hold let Breda, no, it doesn't help. Why? Because you don't know who it is. So I'm not going to say that there's Breda to know who it was, that the kilo ani borer ladat. I'm trying to evaluate or I'm trying to choose which one it is. I don't know who it's going to be, right? So for what happens? So we thought that the machloket is whether there is Breda or not Breda. It doesn't matter. Once you hold that there is Breda or not Breda, there's no difference between Toleh B'dat Atzmo or Toleh B'dat Achrim. Zoto Dovar. So Elmaleh Rav Meshashia Rava says Meshashia Rava veha Rabbi Yehuda Toleh B'dat Atzmo. Rabbi Yehuda was one that says that we're talking about the Toleh B'dat Atzmo, and he's the one let Breda. He holds that there's no Breda. The Toleh B'dat Acharim, but if it's going to be Toleh B'dat Acharim, there is Breda. So what's going on? Meaning you just came and you placed a hanacha. How do you say hanacha? You placed like something which was obvious. It's either you hold that there is Breda or not, but once you hold yes or not, it doesn't matter whether there's no difference between Toleh B'dat Atzmo, Toleh B'dat Acharim. Now we're saying the exact opposite. Rabbi Yehuda, he says he's Toleh B'dat Atzmo. And then he says, and there's no Breda. But then when it's Toleh B'dat Acharim, there is Breda. So you see that it has nothing to do with there is Breda or not Breda. Because Rabbi Yehuda in one case says there is Breda, one case says there's no Breda, but it's only Talui if it's Toleh B'dat Atzmo, Toleh B'dat Acharim. So says the Gemara, how do we see that? Toleh B'dat Atzmo le Breda, by Toleh B'dat Atzmo there's no Breda. The time was we said, Halokeach yaim ben kutim. Imagine right now you come and you buy wine from the kutim. Now remember, kutim they don't separate Trumot to Masrot. So if it's Tevel Gamur, it's untied produce. Omer, you say, Shne lugin shani atil lafri sharen truma. You're going to say these two lugin that I'm going to separate from the bottle, it's going to be truma, right? This is going to be truma gdola. Asara, 10 lugin that I'm going to take from here, maaser rishon. Tisha, maaser sheni. Remember, because if you already took off 10%, so now you only have 90. So that's why the second 10% is only going to be 9, not 10, right? That's why the first time was 10 lugin, because it's 10%. The second is only going to be 9, but it's 9, but that's going to be the 10%. Umechel. And then, right, kafeh amud 25b. And then you're going to be mechalel to maaser sheni on the money that you have in your house. The shuteh miyad, and you're allowed to drink it immediately. These are the words of Rabbi Meir, because he holds that there is breda, which means even though I didn't separate it yet, because he says I'm going to separate it in the future, right? Shani atid lafrish. But that means whatever I'm drinking now is not the truma or maaser or all these things. I'm drinking regular wine. Later on, when I separate it, then breda, mafreya, that what I drank was not the maaser and all these things. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yudav, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon Oziel, they said, no, you're not allowed to do that, but same breda. So for you first have to come, you have to separate it, and then you could drink. So therefore, you see that Rabbi Yudav holds there's no breda, and it's talui b'dat atzmo. Now let's see the other case. Toleh b'dat achrim, eat le breda, but toleh b'dat achrim, there is breda. Titznam, as we learned in the Mishnah, may be'otan yamin. We're talking about right now, the Mishnah says, to do with a husband that he's choleh mesukan. Yeah, he's very, very sick. Yeah, he's on his deathbed. And he gives a get to his wife, and he says, so he comes and he says, this is your get from now, if he's going to die from this sickness. Now, what happens is that, obviously, it's going to be a get if he does die from that sickness. But what happens during those days? Meaning, he still doesn't die. He's still for another 3 days. Can she go and run off with another man?
No, she's not even an aguna. She did receive the get or not?
He gave her the get, but the get came at Tnai. Exactly. No, but the Tnai was, but from this moment. From no. It's from this disease, but it's from this moment. Me'achshav, from now.
So she's an aguna, basically. She cannot remarry.
1 second. Rabbi Yudah says, no, she got the get one more time.
On the night.
On the condition. But the condition on the future was that if he does die from the sickness, she's divorced today when he gave her the get. Not when he actually dies.
So in the meantime, she's an aguna.
Well, what do you mean aguna? Says Rabbi Yehuda, harei ke'eshet ish l'chol dvareha. She's still an eshet ish. Why? Because since it's toleh b'dat acherim, right? He does hold a breda. Ulchimait, and then when he dies, right? It's still going to be considered a get, which means we don't say that it's a get la'achar mitah because he said me'achshav from now. Except for even though when he gave the get, it was not barur that he was going to die. Now that he died, I say that retroactively it was going to be a good get. So therefore, there's going to be breda. So therefore, he says, even though according to Rabbi Yehuda, when you purchase the wine, right, there's no breda, but there it's toleh b'dat atzmo. Here it's toleh b'dat acharim, because this has to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Meaning, a person cannot decide, right, whether he wants to die or doesn't want to die. It depends on Hashem, not on him. So it's toleh b'dat acharim. To do with taking off Trumot Masorot, that's to do with you. Are you going to take off Trumot Masorot or not?
Exactly,
and therefore, the concept of breda. So Rabbi Shimon also, right? There's another thing now. So basically, we pushed off a Rabbi Yehuda. Because Rabbi Yehuda holds that there is breda if it's going to be toleh b'dat acharim, and there's no breda, so the toleh b'dat atzmo. That was the case of the wine or the case of the get. Rabbi Shimon also toleh b'dat atzmo, he doesn't hold of breda, and toleh b'dat acharim, he does hold of breda, right? Which is basically the same thing. That means Rabbi Shimon is exactly like Rabbi Yehuda. Toleh b'dat atzmo le'breda hadamran was this case that we said before, the lokeach yain, because it was Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. In the case of toleh b'dat acharim, that he does hold the breda, Titania, hareni bo alech al menat sheyirtze abba. Imagine a person comes and he's going to have relations with a pruya, and he says, "I'm going to have relations with you, and that's going to be a kiddushin on condition that your father is happy with it." So he comes, he has relations with her, right?
He says my father.
Sorry, you're right. Abba, my father, right? So then he says he's going to have the relations. Right? Now, even though the father did not want, she's still mekudeshet. Right? Why? Because there's a chazakah. A person does not want to make his biyatznud. Meaning, nobody wants to make that his relations was like stam immorality. It was a good relations, meaning that it was to acquire her. But one second, but the father did not really want. So therefore, you see from here that it's when it's toleh b'dat acharim, there is breda. Okay? That it's going to be chal, even if the father does not want. Rabbi Shimon and Yehuda ben Shimon says, Rabbi Shimon, Ratza'av mekudeshet. If the father wanted, it's going to be mikudeshet, right? Because it was mikuyam the tanai, kavav mudalef on the top. It's not. So you see from here that according to him, he's trying to say that there is breda, meaning that if the father wanted, so it's good. If the father didn't want, it's not good. According to the other one, there was no such thing as breda. Why? Because a person, there's a chazakah doesn't make his bila to bila tzvun, therefore it doesn't have. We're just going to the Mishnah. It's another one line, 2 lines, right? So 2 lines. So he says, Elmaleh says Rabbi to Rabbi Meshashia. Ben Rabbi Yehuda, Ben Rabbi Shimon, whether it's Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, they always hold a breda. The hatam, but there to do with the lokeach yaim ben akutim, the tani taima was different. Amrulo the Rabbi Meir, they told Rabbi Meir, you're not going to hold shemi baku and what's going to happen if the barrel breaks? Right? It's going to come out mafreya that you drank tevel. Amalem, he told them the shibaku. Well, what's the big deal? I'm not going to suspect that they're going to break. Which means it is. One more time. Really, Be'emet Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon always hold his breda. But where was the case where they argued on Rabbi Meir? The case of the wine. Why? Because Rabbi Meir came and he said, you know what you could do? Drink, right? And you say that in the future, when I'm going to come, I'm going to take later on. I'm going to take it out. That was the thing. They went and they said, we also hold that technically, right? Because there's breda. You could do that technically. But what's going to happen now if the barrel breaks? If the barrel breaks, you can't take off Trumot Masorot from there. It broke. It's all on the floor. So what's going to happen? So it means what you drank was tepid. Because retroactively, that's what happened. You're trying to do something in the future. But right now, so Rabbi Meir says, let it break. What does that mean? I'm not going to suspect that it's going to break. So because of that, Rabbi Meir also hold of the yesh breda, but he doesn't suspect that it's going to break. Yehuda Rabbi Shimon, they do hold of breda. So technically, you could have done that. But they suspect maybe it's going to break, and then you're going to come out that you're messing everything up. So because of that, they don't hold, not because they don't breda, they do hold the breda. But they just hold that that's going to happen in that case. Okay?